Plug Powers has pulled back from $4.58, pulling back within a very sharp descending channel. We have seen very clear bottom out signs at this exact level. Are the bulls going to step up and get that breakout back towards $2.70, $3, or perhaps even $4? Or are the bears going to continue to short stock price lower? My name is Dylan from Dylan Trades. We're going to break down and analyze that today within this technical analysis breakdown. As always, going over to the weekly to stem out a very long-term perspective. And we're going to get the medium and the short term. So that being said, zooming out, we clearly see that stock price has been in more or less a descending channel. I mean, we stayed to this to an exact T, being very, very disciplined, moving back all the way from that 2023 of October, then getting the official breakout within a very tight pennant structure. This is a very obvious common breakout, right? You see the volume start to decline. This is a very textbook setup, a very beautiful squeeze in an abnormal wide bar that has moved stock price a one range movement. This often happens when you see such a beautiful range like this, guys, breakout. If you take a low to a high on a beautiful breakout like this, guys, right, and then put it towards the top, notice stock price did top out right at, boom, right at that $4.50 level. We're pulling back down all the way to this ascending trend line, which is very interesting. We initially did see plug start to build up within some presence here, formulating these higher low steps, and now we've pulled back to that. So pretty much 8 times out of 10, when you get a volatile enough pullback like this, 50% on a very volatile mover with a lot of volatility, you're at least going to see one or two, strong next weeks to come, just giving a lot of momentum, pushing towards $2.50. Maybe $3. And I do think that is in play, guys. I mean, we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 red weeks in a row. Now pulling back to many different areas of value point, right back down towards the top of this descending channel. There's so much here in that $2 support. I mean, incredible analysis for like a short-term pinpointing the exact bottom. I do think we're looking at the exact bottom here on plug, and you might say, hey, that might be a bold statement being that we haven't seen, so much aggression, but all these technical signals do show these two doji candles over the course of the last 2 weeks, just bidding up and down, being indecisive. I do think we're going to see that flip green. And keep an eye on the volume pressure here, guys. You see some good volume. You could see a massive move right back towards $3. That would not shock me here. Definitely a very interesting break and retest and a very phenomenal dip buying opportunity if the buyers do hold up this momentum, which should incur within the next few weeks. So with that being said, we're not going to flip over to the daily analysis. Straight away, we do see stock price met at a crossroads. We have seen this very tight descending channel breaking down within a very disciplined structure. We've continued to see this on multiple different time frames from PLUG, Plug Power. I mean, this initiated all the way back around October, spent quite a bit of time now pulling back to this very strong ascending support, where the buyers have dominated the session, absolutely making a staple point. So it does make sense to why we're seeing stock price cool off here. Once again, looking at the current daily candles, a lot of doji candles, hammer candles, just a lot of back and forth building energy activity. If we pull up the Bollinger Bands, which is a phenomenal, in my opinion, the number one energy building momentum, just to be frank, but that's my opinion, right? A lot of things work if you do use it within unison of correct technicals, but we do see stock price being very overextended to the downside. We've clearly seen that very nice regression below this yellow Bollinger Band. It's very rare to get underneath that. Now we're starting to build energy to pop right towards the center, around the $2.20 level, and at that point, there should be a lot of momentum to get back towards these highs located at around that $2.70 level. So that does seem the most probable situation on the daily analysis. We break out of this very tight pinch here, within this very sharp descending channel, and then from there it would make sense to get back towards these next big high. And I do like that there is a mini squeeze here as well. This was the initial setup that did give that initial pop from plug around this other duration. We see stock price get pretty thin here, the volume starting to decrease, and then right when you see that big breakout candle, you see the volume start to pick back up, and that did initiate a quick pop. So we're looking at the same trend here. Granted, this was a flag pull with a pennant structure, but as of right now, seeing this very tight pennant structure at the bottom of that $2 support, moving back from this buyer base, there is a lot of technical signal to show we should not break below $2. If stock price starts to separate itself beneath this $1.80, $1.90 starts to collapse, there would be a lot of indications that the momentum is shifting for the bear side. But as of right now, I'm going to predict that $2.70 test within the next 6, 7, 8 days. Should be a very quick move if the volume does step up. Typically, when you see this very sharp descending channel, you can see a 50% regression from this high to a low. So from a little bit more of a more medium term, okay, 20 days out, I wouldn't be shocked to see stock price get back towards that $3.10 level. Around this initial gap up area, there's a lot of stuff going on around that $3 level. Definitely in play here, guys. Very strong base here and a lot of signs to show that this is the bottom for Plug Power. And the last thing we're going to note is that, we're already seeing momentum still hold here a little bit. Notice how within this last pocket, sitting at this exact price level, the volume was little to nothing. We were pretty much at zero volume pressure at all here. But now we're right back at the same spot with some pretty decent buying pressure. So if we see that spike up a little bit more, there is a lot of liquidity within this market to at least get that relief bounce, potentially sustaining it for an eventual long-term breakup. But we will track that as it continues to play out live. We're in the hourly analysis. We do see stock price coiling, getting very tight here, just building a lot of energy, getting to the apex of a structure, being at the end of this very long-term descending channel. So pretty much every perspective shows here that big momentum should happen soon with Plug. I wouldn't be surprised to see stock price consolidate for a few more days. And we're in that apex structure where there should be a big rejection, a big violent move to the downside, or that strong euphoric surge separating back towards $2.30. And then from this high, getting towards that $2.62 level. All in all, it does appear very, very good for the bulls here. Keep an eye on the overall market. Plug hasn't been super corresponsive to that. A lot of strong activity here. Plug still remains to be, hovered around here. Perhaps overall market does see a little bit of consolidation and bases Plug out for a few more days. But outside of that, I do think that we're going to see a pop soon. Within the next 1, 2, 3 days, I think we're going to decide that trend within that next strong upside or a dip lower to these lower $1.40-50 levels. As of right now, a very strong chance that we will see that breakout and upside. If you guys found any value in the video today, consider dropping a sub and a like. We'll continue to cover Plug Power about 1 to 2 times per week. Have a good one, guys. Take care, trade smart, and peace.